In this video, I'll show you how to make a frequency distribution table, how to choose the number of classes, and how to use a table to find probabilities. We're given this set of numbers and we want to make a frequency distribution table. The first step is to find the range. The range is going to be the maximum number, that's 154, minus the minimum, 118. When we subtract those two numbers, we get 36. Next, we want to figure out how many classes to have. Classes are what is going to divide up our frequency table. Here's an example of a frequency table. The classes are on the left, and it divides the table into segments or bins. We're not given a number of classes, so we have to use a rule of thumb. In general, you want 5 to 20 classes in a frequency distribution table. You want to aim for having a minimum of one item in each class. If you have fewer than 20 numbers, choose 5 classes. And if you have 100 or more items in your set, then choose 20 classes. This is a rule of thumb, it's not set in stone, but it should work pretty well for most datasets. We have under 20 numbers, so I'm going to choose 5 classes. Step 2 is we want to divide the range by the number of classes. Our range is 36. When we divide by 5, we get 7.2. If you end up with a fraction, like I did, round up to the nearest whole number. When I round 7.2 up, I get 8. And I'm going to use all of this information to make the class intervals. I chose 5 classes, so I'm going to write the numbers 1 through 5. My first interval is going to start at the minimum. Then I'm going to add the number I got in this step here. That gives me 126. Move that number, in this case 126, down to the next row, and then add 8 again. That gives me 134. Moving that number down and adding 8, I get 142. I'm going to continue down the rows, adding the number I got in step 3. This column is the beginning of my class interval, and this column is the end of my class interval. But there is a small problem. If I start to fill in my table with the class intervals, what happens if I get 126? I wouldn't know whether to put it in the first or second interval. To solve the problem, I'm going to minus 1 from each endpoint. Now I have my interval start points and my interval end points, and none of them overlap. My first interval is 118 to 125. The second interval, 126 to 133. And moving down the column, filling in those class intervals. The final step is to fill in my frequencies. I'm going to count the numbers using tally marks. So 128 goes in that first interval, 123, 124, 125. The next few numbers fall into that second interval. And I'm going to move down the table, crossing out the numbers and adding tally marks as I go. I finished with all my tally marks, and now I just need to add those up. We get 4, 6, 3, 2, and 2. You can use one of these tables to find probabilities. We want to know what is the probability a person has brown hair. The first step is to make a total of all the frequencies. That is, add everything up in the frequency column. I get 43. 15 people have brown hair, which means that 15 out of 43 people have brown hair. For blonde or red hair, we're going to total these two. 16 plus 2 is 18. So 18 out of 43 people have blonde or red hair. The last question asks, what is the probability of neither red nor blonde hair? So if we remove those two, we're left with brown or black. 10 plus 15 is 25, which means the solution is 25 out of 43. If you enjoyed the video, please subscribe to my channel and I'll see you in the next video.